Okay, let's just run through this laundry list. LA Kings open with the Edmonton Oilers. First playoff game tonight. Kings have played these guys 3 times in the first round the last 3 years and gone home losers. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they run the Oilers out of this playoff attack. This Kings team is high-powered. It's got goal scorers, and they are in attack mode. Edmonton has been really banged up the second half of the season. They will have Connor McDavid. They will have Draisaitl. They will have Hyman, the 3 goal scorers, but it's not the same Oilers team right now. And this is a Kings team who was 31-6-4 this season at home.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think the Kings are right there, ready to make this move. And on top of everything else, payback, they got receipts in their pocket. They're going to pay the Oilers back for knocking them out of the playoffs 3 straight years in the opening round. Payback. So we got the Kings. Ducks. I was shocked. I was part of the press conference. I'm not quite sure I understand why Pat Verbeek, the general manager, would do this. He fired Greg Cronin, the coach, after just 2 years in what's supposed to be a massive long-term rebuild. Now, granted, the record is Greg Cronin. He won only 62 of 168 games in 2 years. But he had the youngest roster in the NHL because Pat Verbeek drafted all these kids and put them on the ice in the NHL, learn on the job. Well, his second year was much better. They were in the playoff race till right at the end. They went 35, 37, and 10 with kids. That's pretty representable. And he fired the guy, and he wouldn't talk about what the difference was. And he says it was more than wins and losses, but Verbeek would not talk about what was going on. They had miserable power play, miserable penalty killing. It might have had something to do with the makeup of the assistant coaching staff. And Cronin said, this falls under my area. And Greg Cronin is out, and he was shocked that he was told on Saturday morning he was being let go. I was kind of shocked too. Where do they go? There's some pretty good coaches out there they could go get. One of them just got let go by the New York Rangers, who fired their coach, which was a bit of a surprise. Another one may be leaving Vancouver. That's happened within the last hour or so. We're talking about the New York Rangers, and Peter Laviolette was terminated. That was after their new general manager, Chris Drury, made a whole bunch of trades trying to change the chemistry, and the Rangers didn't make the playoffs. They underachieved, so they hit the eject button on Peter Laviolette. He's gone. In Detroit, amazing story, Steve Yzerman's under a lot of fire. That's a legendary general manager. The Red Wings have gone 9 years without making the playoffs. And that's been a constant churn on the roster and a constant rebuild, and they have not been able to rebuild. And then there's Winnipeg, and Winnipeg is playing really well. I don't know if you saw any of the game. The first playoff game against St. Louis in Winnipeg was called a whiteout. Everybody wore white T-shirts. It was pretty electric. And Winnipeg scored 3 goals at the end of the game, came from behind, and beat the St. Louis Blues. And the last one would be Vancouver. Rick Tocchet, the option in his contract was not picked up, despite the great success that he's had in Vancouver in 2 years and massive rebuild. Vancouver didn't make the playoffs. Now, Vancouver says they're going to negotiate an extension, try to keep him, but Tocchet's he may be looking at the Ducks. He may be looking at the Philadelphia Flyers, where he was a star player. That job is open. So that's interesting. So the Kings are ready with receipts in their pocket. I don't understand the Ducks' decision to do this. The Rangers' problem is more than Peter Laviolette. I think Chris Drury deserves blame for screwing up the chemistry there. Yzerman's in hot water in Detroit. I don't understand Vancouver. And whiteout Winnipeg. Damn, that was a lot of fun to watch. Okay, John. Slap shot. Go ahead. Stand on the line.
Well, it's difficult as a fan when you have the NBA and the NHL playoffs on at the same time.
Not my house.
I mean, it's just like constant. It's like 24 hours
Split
flipping
screen.
around. Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting the way that the Oilers have knocked off the Kings 3 years in a row in the playoffs. And every once in a while, you see that sort of thing in a lot of other sports. I remember as a little kid, the Cowboys beat the 49ers 3 years in a row, I think in 70, 71, and 72 in the NFL playoffs. I mean, it just makes the fans of the losing team so fired up and angry. So I'd imagine Kings fans are just ready to sink their teeth into the Oilers once and for all.
Kings fan standing at the glass behind the penalty box. I got receipts.
Yeah.
Payback.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what'd you think about the Ducks?
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, we praised the hiring of Cronin, and they had this really nice, they got right around 500. But I don't know. In your best 15, you were saying how the GM wanted a different voice in the room, someone that can motivate the players to a higher level. But who are you going to get? Are you going to pick up a guy that just got fired, by the Rangers? Or I mean, are there any other
I'm a big Tocchet fan. I've known Rick when he played with the Kings and the Flyers and interviewed him. I can't believe Vancouver would let him go, but Vancouver underachieved, and they screwed that roster up with all the trades, and they're paying all this money to this one player from Sweden. It's not scoring goals, and he's supposed to be scoring goals. So Vancouver's got some real mishmash of personality problems there, but I like Tocchet. If I'm the Ducks, I'd hire Tocchet, but I don't know what Verbeek wants, because this is the second young coach that Verbeek has had, because he fired Dallas Eakins, the ex-Skulls coach, who had a good track record of working with the young kids. And he fired Cronin after Cronin, they were 21 points better in the standings this year than last year with all kids. He fired him after almost getting into the playoffs. I don't understand it.
That's not quite as bad as firing Marty Schottenheimer going 14-2. But just one little side note here. I mean, the Red Wings logo is interesting because it's a puck, but I think it's also a wheel from a car,
from
right?
Detroit, Motor City.
Yeah, exactly. So you see the spokes in the wheel there. And I know the Bruins logo also has kind of spokes in a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
You're
big on graphics.
Well, it's interesting to me.
If your day job fails, you should go into design.
Well, I like to understand the history of the city and of the team and how they're aligned. And when Detroit has a basketball team called the Pistons, I like that. Mm-hmm. It's aligned. And here with the Red Wings, that's a wheel, but it looks like spokes on a wheel, like an older car, like an MG or something. But then I just thought about the Bruins; they have spokes too.
Okay. Looking for a hockey fan, join me Fans Forum. Bail me out of this segment with him because he's just gone off the deep end. Okay, we go from hockey. Last